Let My Vote Count Alliance accuses the VCRC committee of not implementing the recommendations relating to validation contained in the committee's report.
Has somehow said it is binding. But when you run away from your own panel suggestion, and then that own panel is now backtracking, doing 180 degrees, Charlie, what they flip-flopped, then Ghanaians, of course, will look at the matter.
But Chairman of the National Peace Council, Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, who is also a member of the VCRC committee, says he discredits this claim and the 5-member panel set up by the Electoral Commission to look into concerns over the credibility of the voters' register recommended a validation process.
Way of exhibition. They should open it up for people to see what is in there, for people to challenge what shouldn't be in there, so that we can have a credible voters register. The details that you are talking about, I do not think that we made such recommendations.
So who is telling the truth? Let My Vote Count Alliance or the Reverend Emmanuel Asante is also a member of the VCRC committee. Is he the one telling the truth? What were the recommendations in the committee's report, especially pages 20 and 21? Have they been implemented? This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. So pages 20 and 21 of the committee's 77-page report recommended a voter validation as a means of ensuring a clean voters register ahead of the November 2016 polls. But Reverend Asante says he does not recollect or recall the committee dwelling on the term validation. Let's listen to him.
What are you going to validate? My understanding of the whole thing is that you want to make sure that the names that are in there are supposed to be there, and that people whose names should not be in there are deleted. And you can only do this when the voters register is open up, and for people to go and check and also to challenge names that shouldn't be there.
So what the committee actually recommended was the exhibition?
That was what we discussed, and that was our recommendation, that there should be proper voters exhibition. And the exhibition, I remember some of us were even suggesting that it should not be just, it should have a long day. The exhibition should go weeks of exhibition, so that people will have the opportunity to go in there, check their names, and also to check the other names that they think shouldn't be there but have found their ways in there.
On page 20 and 21 of your panel's recommendations, you talk about this validation exercise.
But I don't really recall us dwelling on that term, validation as such. We might have used it, but my understanding at that time was that, hey, let us make sure that the voters register is clean, in the sense that people whose names are not there should not be there. We need a credible voters register. And the only thing to go about it is that open it up, let people go, let them search and find out whether their names are there, and let them also make sure that those whose names should not be there should not be there.
In the understanding of the leadership of the Let My Vote Count Alliance and the other political parties like the MPP who are pushing for the validation, they say you show up at the polling station, your data is checked, your system is clipped and confirmed. Then if you don't show up, you are assumed to be dead or a foreigner multiple registrant. So the system automatically sets you aside.
I don't think we went into those details, really. Let me make it clear that we were all very much concerned about a credible voters register. And our recommendation was that the Electoral Commission must ensure that they do that which will ensure credible voters register by way of exhibition. They should open it up for people to see what is in there, for people to challenge what shouldn't be in there, so that we can have a credible voters register. The details that you are talking about, I do not think that we made such recommendations.
There's been a conversation about whether or not your recommendations are binding on the EC or otherwise. Are they?
No, because, the committee itself was instituted by the Electoral Commission. It was not under any LI. It was not, we were not, brought into being by any legislation. It was the Electoral Commission that instituted a committee to listen to, the various submissions and make recommendations. We have made our recommendations, and it goes very, very far. And we trust that the Electoral Commission will look at the recommendations carefully and ensure that the suggestions that we have made, together with other documents that they have in respect of the reforms that have been proposed by the Supreme Court, will be forthcoming.
We're going to now listen to the spokesperson of Let My Vote Count Alliance, Ibrahim Ejay, who accuses the Electoral Commission of double standards.
What I'd like to firstly say is that I want to quote their own report. Page 20 to 21 talks about validation and the issue about extending the voters' exhibition. It feeds into a wider legal narrative. And what do I mean by that? CI 72 says 3 months before the elections, you have to do a voters' exhibition, which will take us to August the 7th, 2016. Now, the exhibition of the voters' register is to do two principal things: to make sure that it gives an opportunity to Ghanaians who want to challenge names to do so. Then the second one is that you go through a legal process to remove those names who you think as an individual should not be on that voters register. So when we talk about extending the voters exhibition, it speaks into the narrative. Now, the narrative is, how do you go about expunging the names that any Ghanaian deems are ineligible to be on that register? In the same report, if you go to page 23 of the report, I'm talking the VCRAC CRAB's own panel report, they say that the process whereby Ghanaians are called to actually report names that should not be there is cumbersome, and it's not practical. It's not workable. That's the language of the report, page 23. It's not practical because of the volume of numbers there. And so they suggested a medium, instead of having a new register, whereby Ghanaians would actually come and confirm themselves. Now, if you go to page 22 of the report, and I hope the report's in front of you, there's a table that the EC panel have already put there themselves. The first part of the table talks about condition, new registers, and the process whereby you register. On the second row of the first column, it says that those who do not come to register should have their names deleted. I am quoting the EC's own panel report, and it beggars belief that the most Reverend Emmanuel, a man of God, somehow hasn't been fully briefed on his own report. I don't want to say he's confused or lying. That would be misrepresenting the facts. I'm sure the Most Reverend Emmanuel knows the report. I'm looking at the report as we speak. If anybody wants to confirm what I'm saying, Google EC panel report Ghana, and it will come up. And the first picture on Graphic Online is full report of EC's panel on the voters register, and there's a nice picture of VCRAC CRAB there. Then you click the link and you read what I'm telling you. They've asked for validation, that we should actually come and confirm our names, not just looking at the name on the register. This is the panel report. They've asked for validation, and Let My Vote Count Alliance, we wanted a new register. They said it's not possible. So given what they've themselves suggested, why are they now running away from a credible process that in Nigeria removed 16 million fake ghost names from their polls that saw President Buhari elected?
Okay, so from what you've just told us, you're saying that the views of Reverend Asante and what is in the panel report are at variance. I get that. But also, in that interview with Reverend Asante, he made it also clear that much as they did their work and presented their own report to the Electoral Commission, that document is not binding.
That is the EC's own right. Nobody, I think, has said that we can force the EC to do anything. But what we know is that the EC works according to laws. Now, you remember, February 2015, the EC, the Electoral Commission, gave 10 days notice to do the district assembly elections. Now, the constitutional instrument requires 21 days maturity. The EC said, we don't care, we're autonomous. They went ahead, a fisherman from Efutu, a Ghanaian, took them to court
and showed the EC just how far their autonomy reaches. And it was a fisherman who stopped the EC holding district assembly elections in March of 2015. And we held the elections when? September 2015. So the EC should know that as independent as they boast, a fisherman, and my grandfather was a fisherman took them to court and disciplined them with all their autonomy.
So your point is,
autonomous, why did we not have the elections in February 2015, district assembly? So you're right. It's not binding. Nobody has somehow said it is binding. But when you run away from your own panel suggestion, and then that own panel is now backtracking, doing 180 degrees, Charlie, what they flip-flops, then Ghanaians, of course, will look at the matter. And I'm sure that thousands of Kayaye who came to the Ba'amuyada demonstration last Wednesday in Kumasi, are also listening and watching and knowing the kind of leadership that we have. No, if the EC want to go ahead in this vein, no problem. We want a fair playing ground for every party. And we pray that God Almighty himself will see Ghanaians through this period of our democracy.
Let's do some analysis now. And convener of Let My Vote Count, David Asante, is on the line. Good evening to you. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
David, if you clearly listen to Reverend Emmanuel Asante, he made the point clear that the committee or the panel did not make such recommendation. Isn't it clear that you're pushing for something the panel did not recommend?
Thank you very much. Let me say good evening once again to Ghanaians. First of all, there are questions. We have talked about validation because we picked it up from the committee's report.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, the EC meets IPAC and says, well, I accepted the committee's report and told Ghanaians how we implement it, but I rather will settle for exhibition. Let me take you to page 18 and page 17. And listen, Ghanaians will not be taken for fools by the Committee of Five and by the Electoral Commission. We know the confusion existing among the committee members and even the commission itself. But the truth shall prevail. NDC says validation is the best way. I mean, the exhibition is the best way to go. EC says I won't do validation. I will do exhibition. Suddenly, Professor Crabb, Justice Crabb, surfaces from nowhere and comes back to talk about the fact that they never talked about validation. They talked about exhibition. Listen to what the committee report says about exhibition and validation. The Crabb panel report does not see the procedure presented by the exhibition of voters register as a good enough measure for removing invalid names from the list. It makes the case at page 17 and 18 of the report as follows. A. Judging by the sheer numbers, the Electoral Commission's position to display register with political party representatives, the Electoral Commission citizenry to identify and point out invalid names is not a viable approach, particularly when the persons who identify these records are expected to expend their time, energy, resources, not only to provide the evidence, but also to testify before a competent court of jurisdiction. The efficacy of the current provisions may be assessed by the fact that in spite of this system having been in place, there were 8,000 registrants in 2014 who may have been minors on the list.
But the panel says that, David, the panel says that what it meant by this was simply that there should be an extended exhibition exercise and not the validation exercise you're pushing for.
Now, let me tell you what the extended exhibition exercise is. If you do an extended exhibition exercise, originally, exhibition was carried out in this nation in all previous or prior to previous elections. We did not use the BBD machines to do exhibition. BBD machines, which are used to conduct the elections, are only activated when you are doing validation or continuous registration. So they further on insisted that to clean the register, the best way is to extend the exhibition exercise, resulting in validation because individuals whose names are there must put their fingers on the BBD machines for them to be verified. And the point again is that how do you go to police station to get your name exhibited when you are a dead person? Are we thinking straight in this country? Every single move of this electoral commission for the past 2 years is never to give the citizens a credible voters register, but to sustain a particular political party's position on the matter.
So what will you be doing now as the panel's position mean that the Electoral Commission, or may mean that the Electoral Commission will not be undertaking the validation exercise you're pushing?
Well, I have told you what the committee said. In the committee's report and in page 17 and 18, the committee chaired by Justice Crabb tells us how bad and pitifully awful exhibition process is in attempting to use it to clean a voters register. Even the same panel of 5 coming to tell us this is the best position to clean the register.
And your position is?
Well, they talked about validation as the best means to clean the register. We still stand by it, no matter the semantics they will come up with. And for your information, let my Vote Count Alliance and the teeming Ghanaians, millions of Ghanaians who think the electoral register is a sensitive matter. We are just picking snippets of information from the NDC, from the EC, and the latest of all from the committee of 5 put together, whose even mandate and then composition we challenged. Gradually, Professor Crabb and his men are proving us right that they did and they were going to do a purely biased job.
Many thanks to David Asante. Right. Are you still going to hold your press conference tomorrow?
We are planning to come out with a massive press conference, which shall be followed with a massive demonstration to expose the hypocrisy and the ungodliness of these men who were put together to do that.
Thank you very much, David Asante. On the other phone line is Nanobre Boahing, is Deputy Secretary General of the NPP. Good evening to you, Nana. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Yeah, good evening to you.
Nana, you said this latest claim by the panel is strange. Why do you say that?
Oh, well, let me be very honest. As far as the NPP is concerned, we have eminent individuals who are supposed to speak on behalf of the party in matters of business. So whatever I would say this evening is my personal opinion.
Right.
Because we have Makmanu, Ajay Martin Kosa, Obi Amwa, and the others who are entrusted with the responsibility of holding the fort for the party in matters of the electoral discussion.
Right.
So once I'm not one of them, whatever discussions we will do, whatever sentiments I'll pour out this evening, it's my personal position. You see, why all this noise about exhibition, validation, and what have you? See, the most important thing is that Ghanaians are yearning for a credible register. That is all. Whether it's a matter of semantics, it is a matter of exhibition, it's a matter of validation, it is a matter of the credible register. And do you have a credible register? No. Do we need a credible register? Yes. And therefore, I don't see how and why Reverend Asante MP, VCRC, Crabb, and others should allow themselves to be used by the youth. And I'm sorry to say this. VCRAC, as you Crabb, and eminent
is calling for an exhibition. If you listen to Reverend Asante, he said that the exhibition is supposed to clean the register. So what's your fuss about?
Exhibition itself cannot clean the register.
The validation exercise can?
Yes, Professor Sika told us, he did it, he told us, and he did it in Nigeria. I mean, some people are even coming out with funny excuses that, assuming that I want to do the exhibition, and for one reason or the other, a voter not turn out to take part in this exhibition. Should that person be disenfranchised? If we first believe that exhibition or validation, no matter the semantics, is going to help us to have a clean and credible register, why not? I am surprised that Professor Sante, VCRAC, Crabb, are allowing themselves to be used as a spoof by the issue. The question for you to say that, oh, look, you were appointed as a expert committee to look into the complaints of individuals, parties, and institutions. You submitted a report. Our report has been published to every Ghanaian for the consumption of every Ghanaian. And therefore, we are no longer interested in joining this brouhaha. The report is there. If you have a misconception or dissatisfaction of the report, the individual knows what to do. That should be the end. Then eminent politicians, eminent academicians, eminent intellectuals allow themselves to be tied into the man like that.
Now, I'll have you hold and also speak with the Director of Elections of the NDC, who is Ofuswampofo. He joins us on the line. Good evening to you. Thanks so much for your time.
Good evening, my sister.
So what does your party make of this fresh controversy?
It's a needless controversy, very, very needless. And as I indicated earlier on, when I listened to Nano Bribwahe, and he indicates that whatever decision or sentiment he's going to express will be his personal sentiment, I get worried because I believe that the MPP as a party has to have a position on this issue. And we have met at the Electoral Commission at IPAC meeting. The last meeting was held a couple of weeks ago. The Electoral Commission has rolled out its roadmap towards the election, and it was very clear that what the Electoral Commission is backing upon is the exhibition of the voters' register. Indeed, the Electoral Commission has decided this time round to bring some innovations. The chairperson indicated to us, for instance, that they are contacting some certain state institutions like the Controller Accountant General and other deaf and others to be able to delete the name of deaf people from the register. Again, the Electoral Commission is going to open the register up and give political parties and individuals and interest groups the opportunity to scrutinize the register. And if you have any, misgivings, challenge against any person whose name should not be in the register, you are permitted to do so. This is what we have agreed upon. The date has been set, set after the exhibition of the register. The cleaning exercise will go on. In addition to that, the deduplication exercise, which also involves removing multiple names, will still be ongoing with the active participation of political parties. I dare say that Ghana electoral process and this registration process is one of the most inclusive and transparent exercises that involves all political parties. When it comes to the issue of validation, it has never come up for even discussions at the IPAC meeting.
But page 19, table 3 on that report, Mr. Ofuswampofo, for page 19, table 3, requirements and scope of activities related to the type of the register. If you come down to number 3 of that table, it talks about validate, verify information in the register. How do you justify your position?
It depends on what you are saying. But the exhibition of the exercise is to show that somebody goes in, checks his name, checks his age, whether his name is spelled well, whether his age is correct, whether his text has been put there well, and then the person says that yes. Then the person, goes. But the problem that we are having is that you must understand what validation in the electoral process means. When we talk about validation in the electoral process, registration process, it means that before election, and that one is backed by law. And let me say for emphasis that Ghana has a voluntary registration process, and we don't have any law which makes registration mandatory. In some jurisdictions, registration is mandatory, and for that matter, you have to go and validate. We have a voluntary registration process. People can decide to register. People can decide to go and check their name. People can decide to vote or not to vote, and there is no law compelling them to do that. When we talk about validation process, what it means literally is that before the election, the register is open. People go in and check their name. And once you check your name and your name is validated, it's a tick. Then if, for instance, you have 10,000 people and only 5,000 people manage to go and validate their name, then it means they are the only people who will be permitted to vote. So a new register is compiled, and only 5,000 names will be there, and the rest will be in the master list. We don't have that law here. We don't have that principle here.
So you feel the extended exhibition is what we need and not the validation?
Validation is a non-issue at all because it's not backed by law, and we cannot, under a voluntary registration system, decide that people should be compelled to go and validate it, which means that if you have traveled, for instance, outside the country, and the Electoral Commission opens their register for exhibition, and you do not come to check your name, it means that when you come back to Ghana on election day, you cannot go and vote.
Well, many thanks to you.
And that one cannot work in this country at all.
Point clearly made. Thank you so much. And let's speak to Nana Obriabua. If you're still on the line, Nana Obriabua, it's clear.
That is the way you tell yourself. When you're a politician and you don't want to be honest and sincere, and see, an execution of politics is clear. That is how you behave.
So it is clear there is an indication that the validation exercise you were pushing for may never happen. What does the MPP intend to do?
Look at how some people is sweating to explain himself out. Validation is validation. If you are a politician, you are dishonest. And I attempt to put that into the people's eye will not help at all. Validation is validation. It's a matter of what? Validation. Technology, validation.
What does your party intend to do about this? Because the validation exercise may never happen.
You don't need any legal knowledge to explain the word validation. So that is why I'm saying that, look, if you are a dishonest politician, that is the way you find yourself.
Well, many thanks to Nana Obriabua. Point well made. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. This is today's big story. Good evening.